Welcome to Should You Buy It, the show where we help you decide whether a game is worth your time and money.
And today we're going to be looking at Arkham Knight for the PS4 and X-Box One.
Wow.
I love this series, and I love it so much that I wanted my good friend Shane to play it, so I got him Arkham Asylum for his birthday 2 years ago, and he's still yet to play it.
That was a greatest hits game, you cheap bastard! What kind of shitty friend are you?
Well, if you would give it a chance, I'm sure you'd get hooked.
Well, I never played the first 3 games in the series, so I can't recommend it. I say don't buy it.
Damn it, Shane! We used that joke in our Splatoon video! Fuck it, let's just get into Arkham Knight.
In case there's anybody besides Shane who's new to the series, let me explain it to you in 3 words or more. Much like the Christopher Nolan trilogy, the first one's amazing and redefines not only Batman, but the superhero genre in general. And the second one's somehow even better.
In my humble opinion.
And then there's the third one that lowers the bar and just doesn't quite capture the same kind of magic. But much like pizza, even when it sucks, it's still fucking awesome. Unless it's Tony's store-bought pizza. Don't buy that. But then we have entry number 4, and since we don't get early access to games, we can only read the horror stories about the season passes being a ripoff and the PC version being completely unplayable. We tried to reach Batman himself, but he was less than cordial in our interview.
But we don't play PC games.
And if you think the DLC's a ripoff, there's an easy solution. Don't buy it!
Now that we have all the controversy out of the way, how does this hold up? Other than not having any tutorials and just throwing you right into the game without even getting a quick rundown of the controls. At least having an option for tutorials would have been nice.
Well, you can't expect developers to make a tutorial for just one person. Hell, Majora's Mask did the same thing and just threw you in there and assumed you knew what you were doing. I don't think there's any newcomers to this series besides Shane, so why make the rest of us sit through a tutorial when we know what we're doing already? What they do spend a lot of time on tutorial-wise is how to use the Batmobile, which for the first time in the series can actually be driven. At first it seemed really forced and the game started to feel like nuts and bolts all over again. Thankfully though, after spending a little bit of time with it, the game moves on and the Batmobile's only around every now and then to break the gameplay up a little bit. And on the plus side, it makes for some unique puzzles and it's also an easy way out of fights with random thugs if you just don't feel like dealing with them.
As fun as it is to use the Batmobile, they're really pushing it on the whole Batman doesn't kill anybody shtick for the games. Gotham may have been evacuated, but the thugs stayed behind, and you get these cute little shocks every time you plow over somebody's corpse to reassure you that they're not dead.
Hey, if that's what it takes for DC to allow Batman to drive recklessly, then I'm fine with that. It'd suck if the game made you drive responsibly like in LA Noire. Still though, it's weird to see the Batmobile turn into a tank and blow the unmanned tanks away.
Since they know Batman doesn't kill, you'd think they just have put people in tanks so he couldn't fight back without killing them. Another great thing about this game is that it doesn't get stale or repetitive. Once you learn how to fight or take enemies out one by one in stealth sequences, the game continues to add more twists like medics, bigger enemies, turrets, and even fucking ninjas.
And the game's also loaded with tons of side missions from other popular villains like Two-Face, Penguin, Deathstroke, and Riddler, who's back with more tedious trophy collecting, and the only problem I have with that is that to see the true ending, you need to collect them all. And since this is supposedly the final Arkham game, I want to see it through to the end, just to finally be able to get my hands on the Riddler's monkey ass after dealing with his taunts for 3 games. I did get the data packs in Arkham Origins, but then he wasn't even at his hideout at the end. At least this game doesn't bullshit you on how much you have left percentage-wise. You don't need to do the New Game Plus just for your file to say that your game is 100% complete. So at least you'll get that little game bonnier to see 100% after you get the true ending. It's also nice to see some lesser-known villains like Man-Bat, Hush, and Professor Pig. It makes me feel left out and almost punished for not having read the comics. And I don't say that like it's a bad thing. I genuinely want to read them after playing these games. But my favorite thing is that a little bit more than the other Arkham games, you feel like you're Batman, which is obviously an awesome feeling and genuinely makes you feel the urgency to stop Scarecrow in the Arkham Knight. If you fail, it's all over for the rest of the world.
Well, it feels a lot less important now that we know Superman exists in this world.
I mean, he could come clean this up in like 10 minutes, so I guess we could fail, it's no big deal.
I know they thought it would be cool to tie them in together, or maybe even hint that they're working on a Superman game, but it really just kind of deflates the whole Gotham needs me gimmick.
I know Superman exists in the Batman universe, but they didn't have to bring it up in the games. I'm not saying Batman isn't a badass, but these particular situations could easily be handled by Superman or the other Justice League members. It's really just a nitpick and hardly enough to ruin this game, but keep Superman out of it.
I don't know how I'm just now getting into these. It's like the Nolan movies.
But better!
Sure, the Nolan movies are great, but they can only do so much with a 2 to 3 hour time limit. The best thing about Batman is definitely all of the awesome villains, and in the Nolan movies, Scarecrow was kind of a wuss. Sure, Ledger was an amazing Joker, but Mark Hamill just hits the ball right out of the park. I just wish we had Bane like in the movies.
He is in the first 3 games, but you wouldn't know.
Take me on home.
Also, we did mention Mark Hamill's back as the Joker. No, we're not going to get into spoilers, but we will say that Joker is still dead from Arkham City, but Batman's having some psychological shit going on in his head and is imagining Joker's commentaries about his adventure throughout the game. It's really not that much of a spoiler, but if you're unsure whether or not you want to buy this game, then you really need to take into consideration that Mark Hamill's the Joker, because that's something that'll make anything Batman-related even better. And finally, I'll leave you with this. If you've ever actually wanted to be Batman, then playing any of the games in this series is probably as close as you'll ever get. Gameplay-wise, I think it's the best in the franchise just because you're able to do everything you used to, plus you can drive the Batmobile. But whether or not this is the best in the series overall is hard to say right now. It might be, but I feel like I'm always going to have a soft spot for Arkham City just because the improvements it made over Asylum were the biggest overall. But that begs the question, is it worth your time and money? Well, if you like Batman or video games at all, then this is definitely worth buying. This is the reason I finally decided to get a PS4, along with a few other games on the way, but I just couldn't wait for this one. The DLC Season Pass is kind of a ripoff, but even if the Batgirl add-on ends up sucking, the game by itself is easily worth $60 without anything extra that's on the way. Just don't get the PC version, apparently.
Well, I thought the game was fucking fantastic, super addicting, lots of fucking stuff to do in the game, tons and tons of hours of gameplay to be had here. You really do feel like Batman, and best of all, it's compatible with the Donkey Konga bongos. So that's a real treat. Thanks for watching!
And remember, as always,